This is an invitation to our free webinar on the 23rd of October at 8:30 p.m. BST. It's an introduction to will and intention. So come and join us with any questions that you have about this topic, and see you then. This is the Superpowered Mind podcast for inquiring individuals who are tired of the struggle for peace, happiness, and clarity. I'm Claire Diamond, ready to help you explore the principles of the mind, the self, and reality to unlock ultimate mental freedom. This podcast is the one to listen to if you're ready to experience the capabilities of the superpowered mind. Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 35. Today, we're looking at will and intention ahead of a course that is starting in November, and also a free webinar on the 23rd of October, in which we look at the introduction to that. And we're looking today at this seemingly impossible conundrum of the non-existence of free will and the complete accountability for everything that is arising, which becomes more and more available as the mind settles into what is actually true. And I had an example of this the other day. I was walking through the kitchen and my arms were full of sheets and towels and stuff, so I couldn't see the floor. And my cat walked in between my feet, and as I was walking, I kicked her, and she sort of scampered across the kitchen. And oh my God, I was horrified. And so I put down the sheets and went to cuddle her. I'm so sorry, Lottie. And I had this thought, she doesn't even recognize her name, let alone understand the words, I'm sorry, or understand the concept of apology, or understand the concept of accident versus intentional. And so why try to persuade her that I didn't mean to? And the fact is I did it, I did it. And so I was thinking about that, even though it was an accident, obviously. So there was this thought that I didn't mean to do that. That wasn't intentional. It was accidental. Even if it was something that I had meant to do, even if it was something that went to stroke her and she didn't want to be stroked. I meant to do it. I wanted to do that. Even that intentional action is coming from a subconscious, vast realm in which everything that has ever happened in the entire history that has led up to this moment for this particular body mind has led to that decision to stroke Lottie, stroke the cat there and then. It hasn't come from an independent chooser. It's impossible that an independent chooser exists. It's impossible, really. The logic is so clear that how can it be when all words, all beliefs, all actions, all conditioning has been acquired impersonally by this body mind, starting from conception, this learning, happening way before there's even any concept of self. Yet, we can watch babies fixing their gaze on their parents' mouths, learning, copying the patterns of lips and movement to make sounds that then become words. So all of this is information that's going into the subconscious mind, and it leads to actions. It leads to words being said. And so there is no free will because there's no entity to have free will. The idea of a separate me, Claire, that is an independent decision maker, that has to have free will. It can't exist without the concept of free will. But when we start to see how can free will even exist, then there's no entity to have it anyway. It's not like, oh, I'm just a leaf floating around on an ocean being tossed around. No, that whole separate entity doesn't exist. And yet there is still a body mind that does stuff, and it does stuff apparently by choice or apparently by accident. And that body mind is the localization in which all experience happens. And so all action is taking place through that body mind. All perception is occurring there. All psychological concepts, imaginings, past, future, is all happening there. The entire idea of the self and the entire idea of the world in which that self lives is taking place through that body mind. So the localization of intelligence, aliveness, consciousness in this perceptual form is the source, it's the origin of how everything appears, how everything arises. And it's very interesting now because that starts to shift the focus from this me, this independent, separate me that is apparently making independent, objective choices impossible. It shifts the focus from that, and we can see how our entire lives have been based on trying to secure that illusion. The focus now shifts to ultimate accountability for everything, the entire way the whole reality appears. Lottie, the kitchen, the sheets, the towels, this body that is doing stuff, the way it's held, all of that is the result of this localization of the infinite and absolute with this particular form. And that creates a unique space, a completely unique perceptual, interpretive space that no single separate entity exists to be in charge of. So there is no responsibility. There's no separate doer. And yet there is accountability at a perceptual level for the entirety of it, because what we are is intelligence, aliveness, beingness, animating, perceiving via this form, and that's the origin for all of it. And there's a very nice quote from Einstein. Honestly, I cannot understand what people mean when they talk about the freedom of the human will. I have a feeling, for instance, that I will something or other, but what relation this has with freedom, I cannot understand at all. Yeah. So there is this sense of willing, of desiring, of wanting, of intentionality, or of watching behaviors and seeing them as accidental. And yet that has nothing to do with free will. It has nothing to do with an apparent separate entity that can choose independently to make things happen. And so that's the difference really between no doer, no chooser, no separation, and source accountability, as I call it, or impersonal accountability, origin accountability, this perceptual space in which everything appears. And the interesting thing about that is when source accountability is understood more and more as the truth, as the reality of existence, the reality of experience, then everything taking place within experience, all events, all people, all occurrences, are messages really to say there is no separation. They are messages of alignment. And when there's that stress, when there's the survival mechanism that comes into play to protect the separate entity, It's amazing that sense of security, insecurity, shame, fear, need, lack, unworthiness. When that arises, it's a sign that the mind is temporarily identified in separation. It's temporarily lost. And the entire reality is showing that. And what I think is so interesting and really transformational is the concept of wanting, of willing, of desire, of intention, because that has an energy to it. It's a motivated direction. And it's coming, again, from the subconscious. There's no point in the mind trying to decide, is that, is this a spiritual want? Is this my wisdom speaking to me? Is this ego? No, that mind has no clue. It's got no clue. All that can be known is there's an energy of desire. There's an energy of I want this. I want to go on holiday. I want to hang out with these people. I want to write this book. I want these people to work with me. I want to go for a walk. I want to go to sleep. I want to eat this apple or have this cup of tea. Whatever it is, there is a momentum to it that is so powerful in this exploration, because it means that by following the will and intentionality and not trying to deny it, so much of spirituality is really like no desire, don't need to do anything, don't need to have anything. It's so boring, so dull, really, when all of life is desire. Life is synonymous with desire. Life, the form, any form animated by life intelligence, without it, it would just be inert substances, but animated by life intelligence, any organism is desire. Desire for oxygen, desire for hydration, desire for movement, desire for sunlight, desire for companionship, desire all the way. And the power of will and intention is that it creates an impetus of attention into the world, to see what is actually true, what's actually going on, how things happen, how problems are solved, how things are obtained. And what I suggest in all my courses now is that we honor those wants, we honor will, we honor intention, and where it is frustrated, where there is stress, where there is a feeling of villain and victim, where there is a sense of isolation, where shame comes up, where fear comes up, and it relates to this sense of being, nothing else. Nothing else is at stake apart from me. So say I want to create a business and I want to have 10 clients. And so, okay, I'm terrified about calling people to see if they want to work with me. I feel, so inadequate, so shameful, but I do it because I've got a coach that's saying, yeah, call these people. So I call them and they say no. And the shame of that is horrific. It's like dying. It seems worse than dying. How could I have, I'm humiliating myself thinking these people might want to work with me. It's so awful. They've said no. I just want to crawl under a rock. Can't bear it. I can never go out again. The whole focus is on the survival of the identity, not on the clients, not on the work, not on any information that's being made available in real life, just on me. And when it becomes clear, and it really becomes clear very quickly, in these desires that are only really about me, I want to be loved. I want to have enough attention. I want to be successful. I want to be someone. I want to be worthy. I want everyone to like me. I want to feel like I am someone. When that's the focus, when that's the central point of this will and intention, it goes nowhere. It literally goes nowhere. It's torture. It's torture for the mind because there's actually no problem to be solved, even though the whole system is in crisis. The mind is like, well, where is the problem? There isn't one. But it's like with there's death. It feels like everything is under threat, but the mind can't actually solve any problem here because there actually isn't anything under threat. There is nothing at stake other than a constructed idea that the mind has created of how the identity needs to be held at an experiential level in order to be safe. And so following this intention, following this will, this want, is so powerful to see what is confronted along the way. And it's a huge shift of information because up until this conversation, it might have been that horror at being rejected or turned down or ignored or criticized or getting something wrong, being corrected, that horror, that used to be information about me. I'm wrong, I'm inadequate, I can't do this, they think this about me, this is what my future's going to look like now that I'm this total failure. This is why, this is my past. This is why everything's led up to this. Me. The shift now is that is so boring. It's so boring. It's so dull. It's non-information. It's a mind spinning around in on itself, increasingly confused, increasingly lost. All the resources, all this phenomenal talent and experience and knowledge and problem solving, imagination, all of it turning in on this focusing on something that literally doesn't exist. That is the end of that. It's too boring. It's just too dull and goes nowhere. And instead, seeing the stress as indication of a lost mind is so powerful. And now all resources, all attention can be focused on what's actually real. What information is here? What's the actual problem to be solved? I want 10 clients. Okay, how is that going to happen? Let's really hear what people are saying. Let's hear their objections. Let's hear what they want. What sort of work do they want to have? And all the time, this powerful mind is acting to bring about that will, to make that will happen. And this concept of doer, no doer, it actually becomes less relevant. The more true it is, in that there is no self for the mind to obsess about. Now there's just clients. There's just work. There's just projects. There's just stuff to do. Yeah, the concept of doer, the more true and obvious it becomes, the less relevant. It's we've looked before at mountain, no mountain, mountain, and mountain when the mind can be obsessed with the world because it's going to secure me. And then there's no mountain when there's this realization, okay, there is no separate self, there is no separate doer, there is no decider, there is no chooser, there is no separate reality. And that no mountain period can be really revelatory. And a lot of focus can be in that. Like the mind, it's so mind-blowing that, yeah, attention can hang out there for sure for a while. And then the world comes in and relationships come in and there's stuff to do and problems to solve. And now we're into second mountain, no mountain, mountain, second mountain. And that whole concept of no doer, It's obviously true, and it's not as interesting actually as all of this fun stuff in the world to do. And that is where will and intention really transform, where there's no bypass, where there's just a mind moving more and more deeply into bigger and bigger problems to solve, bigger and bigger experiences to have, bigger and bigger questions of inquiry to consider. And all of it fueled by will and intention, which are such a powerful, motivated, energetic basis for the dissolving of everything that's not true, and for attention moving deeper and deeper into the world, freeing the mind to do what it does best. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Lots of love. Bye. Thank you for listening to Superpowered Mind with me, Claire Diamond. If you want extra support in the exploration of your mind, download our exclusive subliminal recording, especially for podcast listeners, on bit.ly/podcast subliminal.